I'm Mark Kenyon.
I'm Dr. Julie Meechan.
I'm Steve Hansen.
I'm Jill Bebout.
Chad Gravy.
My name is Jeremy French.
I'm Laura Walter.
Carol Hawksbergen, owner of Hoxie Native Seeds, and this is the Prairie Farm Podcast.
This is Hal Herring, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Podcast.
Skip Sly, Iowa Whitetail.
Valerie Van Coten, State Historical Society of Iowa.
Dr. Matt Helmer at Iowa State University.
My name is Kyle Laubarger with the Native Habitat Project.
I'm Judd McCullum. I appeared out of the wilderness, and this is the Prairie Farm Podcast.
Welcome to the Prairie Farm Podcast.
If you're thinking about cover crop for your land or your landlord's land or something that you might be managing, you've got to check out Iowa Cover Crop. We have worked with them many a times personally, and even though they're a small company, they are as efficient as any of the big companies that we've worked with. They do a fantastic job and also super educated. Those poor guys, we have pestered them with more ignorant questions than maybe any other company we've ever worked with on anything, and they answer really well and very promptly. We really appreciate them. If you're looking for cover crop, check out iowacovercrop.com. You're not going to regret it, and let them know that the Prairie Farm Podcast sent you their way.
It's the Steve Jobs issue. Every time you say yes to something, you say no to something else.
Yeah,
that's
true. That's a good point. How do you sort that out?
Are we on?
Yeah, technically we're recording.
Well, I mean, how do you sort it out? You take priorities, and some days there is no right answer. Or as Thomas Sowell said, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best quotes, most practical quotes I've ever heard.
Yeah,
we use that all the time with this podcast. It's trade-offs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, we aren't verbatim with it, but we've quoted Thomas quite a few times.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
When you're making decisions for 50,000 in a city, 500,000 in a bigger city, 3 million in a state, there just isn't everybody gets everything that they want all the time. And so that's what I'm curious. Like, how do you even go about making decisions like that?
Well, I mean, just like you do in a business, just like you do even now as a legislator, there are things that you can't do, or even meetings you can't go to on a very small basis. And you just have to prioritize what is the best bang for your buck, so to speak. What's the good 80-20 rule?
How do you quantify that? Because I'm leading here at a much smaller scale, trying to figure out there's 100,000 things that we could partake in, that we could do, different people we could interview, and then trying to figure out, like, what is the best lever to pull? I don't know.
So just who to interview? Well, it's just Eddie Andrews. That's
just over and over.
It's an easy answer. What are you talking about? Every business is different. Every, I guess, politics, if you think of it as a business, it's a matter of just choosing what is the best for that audience. What gets you the best long-term results. Even when I started on mental health, like you guys know, that was my original why. Why I even got involved. This guy right here, right? It's my boy. We've got mental health in our family. We lost him 7 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
February 8th. So just a little over 7 years now. And we've got other people in our, extended family with mental health challenges. And when I got in, I said, so 6 years ago, I ran for House and won against a lot of odds there. No money, no name recognition, outspent 6-1. Against an incumbent, right? Those are not good odds.
That's quite an accomplishment.
And more of a metropolitan area, which is not typically the red part of the state.
You think?
Yeah. Yeah. It's Johnston and Urbandale? Is that the...
Well, originally it was Johnston, Urbandale, and we actually had Grimes. And right now, originally it was a purple district. Now it's more of a blue district after redistricting. So it includes Johnston, Ankeny, part of Ankeny, part of Urbandale, Sailorville, Crocker, that area. The only Republican, by the way, to win in either chamber right now in a bluish district. It's kind of an odd statement to say.
What would you credit that to?
Ronald Reagan Democrats. I mean, you have to be approachable, and you have to hold the standard high for conservatism, but you draw people in the middle. And by the way, this wasn't. I know we're about two tangents away from the original question, but we'll get back there. But this also goes to the electability issue of ultimately you want a strong conservative who is preferably a faith-based person who answers to a higher power. It's not just about himself or herself, but who also appeals to people outside of, to the left of Ted Cruz, right? And I'm the only guy in the race with those receipts. When I went to the White House the first time, well, technically the second time, but the first policy one, the question was, one of the people asked me, so how do you win in that district, right? We're talking a district that our congressman doesn't win that district. Obviously, he wins the district, but not that subset of his district that is mine. Neither one of our Republican senators won that district. President Trump, I think, lost by 7 points or so, and Brenna Bird lost by 13 or 14 points, right? How do you outperform everyone in that district? And so, and I said a couple of answers. Number one, we wear them out with love, and I worked twice, 3 times, sometimes harder than several people. I've never stopped campaigning. I never stopped talking to people. We knocked doors all, every year, even the off years. We some people thought this was very Charlie Kirk-esque. I didn't even think about this until afterwards, and people started pointing this out. But we would go to the farmers market. Johnston itself doesn't have a downtown, but we kind of have almost a small town square there. You go to the square, they call it the yard, and set up a table. You give away free lemonade. We make things patriotic, so we'd have lemon bars, and we'd cut them out so that they're lemon stars. We'd give away Iowa-shaped cookies. We'd put bacon in chocolate chip Toll House cookies and call them Bacon Iowa Great cookies, and just we'd give away stuff and say, "Hey, come and let's talk with the legislator. Let's stump the legislator." And if you had 75 follow-up questions, you just had 75 follow-up questions, and we'd talk about all these issues.
So I imagine you'd get there and you'd only end up talking to 5-6 people at a time. Oh, really?
Sometimes it's one at a time. Sometimes it's 3 at a time.
Okay.
Group conversations. There's no formality to it. It's more like, let's talk to people. How about that? And I can't tell you how many people have gone from hating my guts to I think I need you. I think I need to have a meet and greet for you, right? Mm-hmm. I've told this story, but there's like probably 10 stories right off the bat that I could just give examples. My pharmacist, now this one I did clear with her. Even on life, controversial issues, right? I'm pro-life. I believe in life from conception to natural death. I believe we are called as people of faith, as Christians, to protect the most vulnerable, obviously. And as a minister, I certainly believe that, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that that's the most precious thing we have is life. That's the most precious gift we have. And so a couple years ago on the heartbeat bill, the second one, I was privy. I wasn't in the legislature, the first one in 2019 or 2017 or whenever that was. But after Dobbs fell, we had a special session. I think you guys remember that. So everybody who wanted to protest was there. Like, you only get one day, so they were there. There's no tomorrow. And people were banging on the doors. If they were Republican, by the way, the protesters, it would have been called an insurrection. I mean, they were banging doors and windows, and just everything was going on at the Capitol. I get a call from a text from my pharmacist who says, "Hey, Eddie, what are you doing for lunch?" And there was only one committee meeting, Health and Human Services, because that was the only bill, and I was part of that. And so I'm sitting in the meeting, and I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but there's a special session going on the heartbeat bill. I can't leave for lunch. And she says, I know. I'm upstairs protesting your opinion and your position, but what do you want for lunch? And if you think about it, that literally is my district, right? People know I love them, and I don't use that word lightly. I love my district. I tell them they're not woke, they're just having an identity crisis. And we have these conversations with people, and I think they can tell. They can tell that I don't dismiss them. I don't, go nuclear on them. Well, you don't even know what a woman is, so I can't talk to you, right? Like, let's just have this conversation. Are you trying to make a point? Are you trying to persuade people and lead people?
So I've got a political theory question that I wrestle with. I don't remember the exact term. I think it's the delegate versus representative, where I think that the founding fathers actually meant more for a delegate. You go, who's someone in our community that's really intelligent? You make good decisions. Get on up there and make our decisions for us. Versus the representative, hey, make sure that you vote exactly how I would vote if I was there, right? And there's kind of a difference in that. I don't think there's a morally right or wrong. Very strong pros and cons in each direction. And I'm curious, you're kind of in a district that's more purple and you lean one way. How do you approach that?
Well, I tell people, first of all, I've never been a box checker. Let's just get that off the table. So like I've always been the grassroots person in and of itself. I've never been, this is a Republican bill? It must be wonderful. This Democrat bill, it's got to be garbage, right?
Can you think of a Republican bill you opposed in the last couple of years?
How much time do you have?
That's fair. That's
Obviously, you guys, I know you guys do a lot of research, but to ask that question, I don't, you guys, there's a whole lot there. So the first one would be, as a person who fought hard for school choice, it took us 3 years to get that. And by the way, they're not vouchers, they're ESAs. By the way, vouchers are illegal, by the way. I don't know if you know that in Iowa. It's just the process of how it goes. But the ESAs for school choice, I fought for that. We fought for school choice before that, and got variations of that. But so I want to set that as a baseline. I believe in school choice and an opportunity for parents to best educate their kids in the way they should. But the AEAs, I was against from almost the moment that the governor announced the reorganization of the area education associations.
Are you saying you're against the AEAs, or you're against
her
her
reorganization strategy? So here's one of my philosophies. Anytime someone comes up with a bill, one of the first questions that I've learned to ask is, okay, so what's the problem? Does the bill solve the problem? What problem are we really solving with this bill? Do we need another bill? We say we're smaller government, but our code book keeps growing. I think we're up to 7 volumes, maybe 8. I don't know. There's a lot of code there. And so I asked for data. So if restructuring our AEA system, and for those who don't know, imagine you have a student in your school district that needs speech therapy. Well, if you're a smaller district, or even if you're a mid-sized district, are you going to hire an eighth of a person to come, speech therapists, and come and support that person? Or an AEA is set up to pool resources together of those kinds of resources, say in this case, a special ed provider, in this case, a speech pathologist. And they would pool their resources together so they could spend time at this school, or whatever.
Yeah, just greater efficiency.
Efficiency. And so when the announcement comes that here's the plan, we're going to reorganize this, we're going to take this, we're going to move this around, And when you start talking about restructuring how special ed students are provided for or handled or serviced, but you really haven't had a long conversation with special ed parents and special ed teachers and special ed administrators, and you just say, voila, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the immediate thing that I asked for was data. So tell me why, what's the problem? And we were told, well, our special ed's test scores are not keeping up with the rest of the country. And I said, well, okay, let's see the data. Asked for the staff, never saw it. The only data we saw was from 13 years ago that compared apples to oranges. Now, I don't know about you, but making a major decision based upon 11, 12, I think that was passed in 23. Based upon 11, 12-year-old data.
Yeah.
That doesn't, and without getting in the weeds, or maybe we should get in the weeds, but in Iowa, if your test scores go up and you're a special ed student, then you're kind of removed from that category. In some states, if you are identified as a special ed student, you are a special ed student K through 12.
Oh, so the data, that really is apples and oranges.
Yes.
Man, that's
and
wild.
So by definition, Iowa scores are always going to be lower because as soon as someone beats the average, they're out
They're
of
in
the
another
system.
category. Yeah.
And so why can't we compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges? It would take one intern a couple of weekends. They could do that in their spare time and line that data up. And we would just kept getting erroneous data.
Why?
Like that.
What was their goal in it? Because it seems like they weren't sharing something, and usually if you have the better logical argument, you say, hey, here's all the data. We win this argument, right? But if they aren't sharing data, it makes me think the logical argument isn't there, which means there's something else going on.
So I have my own theories.
Okay.
I have a theory that it was largely about money, but I mean, there was money. There was initial savings. Whether there's long-term savings and how things are handled by the school districts. School districts end up paying more for the same services.
Yeah, that's
there's a lot there. So, okay, I think we were talking originally about my why I win in those districts, and when people see that I'm not just a follower, but I try to think through everything, I think that shows a lot of respect by people on both sides. They know I'm not here just to toot the latest Republican horn, even though I am a very strong conservative. And we tell everybody, here are my non-negotiables, everybody. Yes, I'm pro-life. There's probably not a pro-life bill that I'm not going to support, right? I am pro-Constitution. If it's against the Constitution, don't count on me. It doesn't matter who you are. And to my other point, when I laughed at you guys when you guys asked that, like, I've been in trouble. I remember my first 2 years. First of all, I didn't realize that no one thought I was going to win.
We've been there.
Like I said, I gave the parameters. We were outspent grossly. I was facing an incumbent, and we were relatively new to the Johnson area. I grew up in east part of Des Moines, so everybody knew me there. I've been in ministry. I've helped people off the street and Southeast 14th people that are living in the tent, homeless people. We've helped them, that community. We've actually taken a couple people into our house. I don't always recommend that, but we had personal knowledge of these two people.
Thanks for serving your community that way. That's whoever it is that ends up being my governor, I hope that they view people that in that way as human beings who are worth loving and worth spending time on and resources on.
Right. And I believe that you should be a servant leader, not not a good speech giver necessarily, but a servant leader, right?
Yeah.
I used to do that first. But when I ran, like I said, no one thought I was going to win. And the truth is, I didn't know for sure if I was going to win, but I felt like I was led to do that. Like I said, out of my boy and other people that I knew, let's fix this mental health care system. That was my why. I am a talker, but I'm more of a doer. I'm a put up or shut up. At some point, just stop talking about the holes in the system or get in there and fix them. Like, put up or shut up.
Yeah.
And
did you feel like you had success in your venture to help people with mental health?
Oh yeah, we have done that. When I jokingly said, only half jokingly, by the way, when I got elected the first time, I talked to the Speaker Grassley and I said, hey, can I, it sounds funny now. I said, hey, can I just work on mental health? Can I just work on that alone? Do I need to work on, raccoons? And by the way, there's a joke. There's the one guy who has a raccoon bill every year, or the bottle bill. Remember that would come up every year. I just want to work on mental health. Can I just fix this? And I don't want to work on any of the banking issues. just mental health. That's all I want to do, right? And he laughed so hard. But since then, we've passed 27 bills that address different aspects of it. Like, we expanded the residency program at the University of Iowa. The conversation went like this: hey guys, how do we get more doctors here? We've got too long waiting periods. And my theory is that if we get more doctors here in the state, we're going to reduce that waiting period. How do we do that? Well, we'd have to expand our residency that trains most of the psychiatrists in Iowa here at the U of I. Okay, let's do it. Well, that's going to cost money. We'll find money. Of course, as a freshman, I didn't know how to do it, but we figured we could figure it out. Okay, we got the money. How do we do it? Well, and so that was it.
Yeah.
That was the conversation. Very much an oversimplification, but that was pretty much the conversation. We got that going. We put an incentive program, 5-year incentive. I've heard you guys talk about things like that to give people 5 years to fall in love with Iowa. The ink wasn't even dry on that before we started getting applications from neighboring states, Missouri.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's great to hear.
And we can actually, or not we, but students can apply for this even in their junior years if they know they're going into one of these fields. And the incentive, okay, don't laugh at me because I know you guys are we're all fiscal conservatives, but $40,000 a year, up to $40K a year. And the state, I must say, still comes out ahead because if you think about the services they provide, the taxes that they provide, the reduction of waiting periods, and the state does come out ahead.
Oh yeah. Wait, $40,000 a year
up to
for the residents, basically paying them to be residents, or $40,000 a year in perpetuity for them to be a physician in our state?
Oh boy, I'm glad you asked that question. This is up to 5 years.
Okay.
And
yeah, there's no way. $200,000. There's no way that doesn't come back. If you have a well-paid physician in your state, I mean the benefits of having them, even to the
specifically serving a very complex need.
Yes.
Yeah, even as simple as their students are more likely to succeed in school and raise the bar in school. I mean, I want to pivot a little bit because we've
never fully finished.
Yeah, I know. I love
keep going.
You're talking about where you're coming from as you're running for governor. There's a few topics that people will literally quit listening to us if we don't bring up. But before we get to that, there's one that while I was reading over your stuff, I'm dying to ask. You really want to raise teacher wages. I'm A+ all for that. You really want to get rid of property taxes. A+ all for that. How do you put those two together?
Well, okay, two things. The first part of that is we've already started on that teacher pay issue. I voted for that 2 years ago. And what's relevant is 2 years ago we also we spent $14 million to raise the para pay, the para educators, which are extremely important for classes that need extra assistance, especially special ed classes, right? And so we gave $14 million specifically for that. Some school districts use it for other things, but it's primarily for that
wages.
purpose. And last year, the education budget the negotiation is so interesting because the regular legislators don't even decide that. We give our input, and it's a negotiation battle between the House, Senate, and the governor leadership. We give our input, and then they just go back and tell us what deal they've reached. It's as a regular legislator, it's tough.
Yeah.
And so we fought to keep that in, but as part of the Senate and the governor is almost like the same person. Like it's almost like they agree on almost everything. It's like, can you guys make it fair? Just like be a little different from sometime. For the last 6 years, it's almost so it's almost 2-1. And last year they had taken out the $14 million, and we're like, you can't give somebody a raise and take it away the next year, because that's not a raise; it's a bonus. Right. And so, and so we fought hard to get that in, and so we ended up. The compromise was that it wasn't in the quote unquote teacher SSA school funding budget, but we had to take it out of the gaming budget, which is not necessarily the best look, because it looks like we're it doesn't look like we have money in the budget for it. That's just how it was negotiated. This year, we got 7 of that $14 million in the regular budget. Okay, so just all that to say, yes, we are very concerned about teacher pay and making sure that we have good retention of good teachers, and we have excellent teachers here. Property taxes. So, to your point, I have the biggest and boldest plan for property taxes. Reminding people that I'm still serving in the legislature right now. There are three plans that are right now in the state capitol right now. The governor's plan, the House official plan, the Senate official plan. There are about 3 unofficial plans, including mine, which I introduced in November. That's you're never gonna see that really discussed for real, because they're all complicated. My plan is to restructure the entire thing. There's not a person that I've encountered so far. I think I've asked this to 2,000 or 3,000 people. I think one person raised their hand when I've asked, who would design a property tax system like this, the one we have? And I think one person said, I like it.
Do they own a house?
I don't know if they actually own a house, but they did. And so I believe in just complete restructure.
Okay, not get rid of property tax.
No, I phase them out. No, This is a 7 to 10 year phase out. Depends on how you do it. Okay, and the first part of that. Now, imagine talking to supervisors or city or school officials. The initial thought is, well, then how are we going to fund schools, how are we going to fund our? I've had one person say, I thought you liked first responders. I thought you were all about back the blue in school. And it's really restructuring how you do it. It assumes that there is a little bit of a surplus. Okay? Because the first part is the state would buy back the low-hanging fruit. The first one would be the 540 levy, which goes towards education. People forget that, yes, the state provides 45% of our budget on K through 12 education. Then after you throw in community colleges and regions, it's about 55% of our budget. Over 55% of our budget goes straight towards education, right? But there's 3 buckets for education. There's the state, which I just described, which is $8,100 per student, by the way. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then the feds, and then property taxes. And so we would effectively buy back that 540 property tax levy and reduce the property tax burden on Iowans for that portion. You can't do it all in one fell swoop, but you have to phase that in over time. Interesting. That would be one approach. And by the way, since we're talking schools and property taxes at the same time, remember the good old ESAs, Education Scholar programs, right?
The non-vouchers. They're not vouchers.
They are not vouchers, but Democrats. By the way, you'll love this, but even on the House floor, when we were debating this a few years ago, the bill manager would remind all the Democrats who are on the floor who were calling these vouchers, hey guys, just to point out, these are not vouchers. You keep saying they're vouchers. And then the next person would get up and say, well, I know they're not vouchers, but I like the words. I'm just going to call them vouchers because they know that word tests negatively. Yeah. And so they use it anyway, even though they know it's not a voucher, right? But on the vouchers, on the non-vouchers, so you got me saying it now. On the ESAs, imagine your kid is in a school and you decide as a parent that you want your kid in a by the way, speaking of words, they call them non-public now. They don't call them private. It's all these word choices that they keep coming up with, right? It's you want your kid to go to, I don't know,
Big one around here is Pella Christian.
Pella Christian, okay. And now that money goes to Pella Christian. Well, there's still roughly $1,600 that actually stays in the school district for your child who's not even there. All those categoricals and to the tune of roughly $1,600. So effectively a fifth of the payment that the state is making actually stays with the school. So, I mean, you could jokingly say that you're getting more. You know, maybe you should encourage 5 or 10 people to leave. You know, you get more money.
Mm-hmm. But the scary part is if you take it all the way to the end, and everyone in the community says, well, and actually Pella Public is considered a very good school, but they say we're tired of Pella Public. We're just going to go to Pella Christian. But Pella Christian cannot accept students, and then so all of a sudden Pella Public becomes basically an alternative school, you know, for students who were rejected from Pella Christian. And I think the argument is that it's okay if they take public money, but then they need to take the public, not just pick and choose who. Okay. And then they can have the top 50% of students on everything, and they crush it, and they get all the money, and they get all the accolades, you know. And I think that is what I've seen from people using their brains arguing about it. That's been kind of the argument.
Well, that's very. I like how you put that. The ones, just limited to the ones using their brains.
Not just a emotional knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, I mean, Ken and I talk to a lot of people for all sorts of things. Sometimes they use the brain, sometimes they don't. That's all right.
So here's the thing. So some of the argument is, from the other side, those who disagree, is that only public money should only be spent for public schools. Right. Well, first of all, that argument doesn't hold up for. It only holds up K through 12. Like it doesn't. I told one guy to give his Pell Grant money back then because he took public money and went to Drake. So I'm just saying, you know, why didn't you go to Regent University? I'm pretty sure Pell Grants are public money, and he's like, well, that's different, you know. And he's like, wait a minute, and he's kind of like you could see the wheels turning. Well, but that's still, you still pay money. I'm like, but the point is you're taking public money and you're taking it to Drake or Simpson or Dort or St. Ambrose, right? That's public money. We actually also have the Iowa tax credit for specifically for private schools, and so nobody's mad at that. Nobody's mad at that, taking their money to Central College or wherever. Mm-hmm. It's only K through 12 where you have a union that's dedicated to furthering that narrative. And so I would say ask everyone to take a step back. And when they say you're taking money from a public school, take a step back. That money did not start at the public school. The money was with the parents. That is the parents' decision. So when people say you're taking money from public schools, you're missing a step. You're starting with the money already at the public school. No. And I submit to you that our job is to, as a state, we're required by the Iowa Constitution to educate kids in Iowa. It never says what system. Our duty is to make sure we have a well-educated populace. And if that means, by the way, it's the same amount of money. We're still paying, I wish I had the exact number, but it's like $8,100. It just increased by $106 or something like that. It's still the same amount of money. So you hear people say, well, you spent all this money on ESAs and now we're going broke, right? Like it literally is the same amount of money per student that we send, whether they go to public or private or non-public, as they say now. And so we choose to, it's a very subtle model difference, but it is a significant model difference. Are we funding the system or are we funding the student? And I say our mandate, our requirement by the Iowa Constitution is to educate the student. And if that parent decides that whatever that system is not for me, then that's the parent's choice, who's speaking for that child. And I can say this, I have a personal story. When my boy, there was nothing wrong with our school, Johnson Schools, regarding my child's situation, but he was a knucklehead, and so he was a handful. And even when yes, he had some mental health episodes, but those were just as a regular kid when he wasn't having those. He's just macho kid, right? Just normal kid. And we were on a first name basis with the vice principal, with the principal, with the teachers, because we had so many issues. And at one point, we just realized it's not that the school is deficient. Johnson has traditionally been a great school system. And, but he needed something else. And so we made the choice even then, that, we weren't looking for, we hadn't planned on funding a private school or anything like that. That wasn't in the budget, but we just knew, okay, so we have to do something because this isn't working. Yeah. And so we pulled him out for a little bit. We chose an online school. Iowa Connections Academy was the first one we did. And that actually worked. It was a lot more work on my part, because I was effectively part of his teacher, right? And that was a challenge. So the point is, options are good, and it should be decided by the parent.
So, man, I could talk with you for a long time. I used to be a public educator I taught high school science for 7 years and middle school science for 1 year. And so I'd love to chat with you more. But like Nick said, we gotta cover some of the specific issues that are affecting Iowans that tie into agriculture and conservation, which I think education is linked to that for sure.
And can I say one more part on education? I know I talked a lot about that, but we also remember that 85 to 90% of the kids are still going to public schools. We still need to make that number one.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that. I know other guests have talked about that. That's been it's been on every business card for the last year. Getting Iowa back to number one, and I'm glad that other candidates are talking about that as well. But we gave away the Iowa model. We gave it away. We abandoned. It was probably more appropriate word. We abandoned the Iowa model that was the gold standard across the nation, and we said, let's go with this new thing called No Child Left Behind or Common Core, and it just sucked all the life out. While we were giving up phonics, while we were giving up discipline and order, and we're adding all this ideology that just took class time away, where people couldn't even read. If you have more time and just have nothing to do, read or go through the first 3 episodes of Sold a Story. Absolutely. If you want to see something that will make you throw your phone against the wall, almost like, I just can't believe how we did this to our kids.
What's it called?
Sold a Story.
Sold a Story. Okay.
It effectively tells. They could do this entire season probably, I think, in maybe 5 episodes, but it's longer maybe than it needs to be. But it tells how and why we lost our reading advantage across the nation, and just the politics of whole words and reading recovery, which sounds great until you realize they're not even teaching the words, literally not even teaching the words, and saying, well, this word power. Well, see what picture around that looks. What can you infer from the picture? Well, what happens when the pictures are gone? And here's another thing that I've heard. Ask any student from 9th grade on down how many books they've read, or for that matter, K through 12, how many books they've read in school, and then ask yourself how many chapters of that book they've read. Because a lot of times when people say they've read a book, they've read chapter 3 or these 3 paragraphs that my teacher selected. Like, there are so many people who've literally not even read a book from cover to cover. And you'd be shocked. And how many people cannot read, because obviously the first 3 grades you learn to read, and then you go on, you read to learn from that. And if you don't have a solid base, then you're limiting what you can learn from then on.
Yeah. I totally agree. The especially that K through 6. In today's age, if you have a really strong K through 6, you can get the other information you learned in high school. Now, I think you should still go to high school, but I want to pivot, like Kent was talking about. You've talked about water quality. I mean, if you're running for governor or not, you have to talk about water quality. And
absolutely.
You have, from what I have read, I read 2 articles and they both quoted you on it. Voluntary. You want to have some voluntary practices where people jump in. Kent can attest to this. I am a government get off my back person. I'm a ask for forgiveness kind of a guy. But then even I can look at the data where we have had voluntary practices available. Minnesota went and ripped the rug out and said, we're going to make it mandatory. And their water quality difference is monstrous. Now, people are very angry about it. It is controversial up there. So I'm just talking about data on water quality.
And I wouldn't even say the majority of people, from what I've gathered. I would say there are pockets of people that are very angry
which
about
makes sense. You get told to do what to do by the government. People are going to be angry about it. There's going to be a subset every time. But I am curious on what your thoughts are on the voluntary practices, and is it even practical to fix the problem?
Okay, so first of all, the last question, yes, it is very fixable. But so are you suggesting that we should become Tim Walls's example of a state?
I'm not talking about Tim Walz at all. Because
let's put this online right now. Nicholas wants Iowa to become Minnesota.
No. Now I will say I want Iowa's water to be closer to Minnesota's water.
There you go. Okay, I'm sorry for that.
No.
He's gonna slap me after.
No. I'm here for it. I'm in front of people for a living. So
okay, so here's the thing. I mean, the biggest issue is education, and I don't mean K through 12 education. I mean farmers. We were talking actually in the car, and I wrote down all these names here because I can't remember all these names, but. You know what? I'm not going to quote the names.
Huh?
They're very good scientists who've been talking about this for a long time. Dr. Albrecht, I believe, is that William Albrecht, and obviously Gabe, Gabe Brown.
Brown, yeah.
And these guys have been talking about this for a long time. And there was another name there that I can't remember. And it boils down to educating people. And one of them, maybe I should get that name. I don't know.
Well, let's say
they talked about a healthy soil creates healthy plants, healthy animals, and healthy humans.
Yep.
And the opposite is true, right? Mm-hmm. A sick soil creates sick plants, sick animals, and sick humans, right? And ultimately, yes, we generally know what causes these, right? There was one person who talked about the hardest thing is once you look, to quote Michael Jackson, once you look at the man in the mirror and you realize you've actually been doing things wrong and saying, maybe I'm part of the problem, and deciding to make a change. Okay, now I'm full regenerative farming, from henceforth and forever. But fear is a motivating factor, right? People are scared of change. People think that if I do this, then my crop yields are going to go down, and I'm already struggling right now.
Yep.
And so there are studies that show you can use alternatives to glyphosate, or you can use other things that are effectively the same yield, and there's not ridiculously excessive tillage that's required, and there's plenty of examples, and once you show people that, I don't think you have to mandate it.
Two things I want to bring up. I'm gonna not debate you, but I want to bring up the other side because I want to give you a chance to address it for our audience. The first is that even if every single farmer, landowning farmer and operating farmer, and banks call them operators, right? Because there's like a pushback against that.
Yeah,
well, even if every single one said, you know what, Eddie, I love that idea, I want to do it. I don't know if every single farmer put together would be powerful enough to go against Farm Bureau, Bayer, Monsanto doesn't really exist anymore, but Farm Bureau, Bayer, not as much John Deere. They seem to be more supportive.
Just other input companies.
Well, or Cargill, or ADM. I mean, they are incentivized to make sure that as many acres of corn and bean every year are farmed. They're incentivized to do it. So whether they're bad or not, I don't know.
When you say go against, what does that mean?
Well,
what do you mean by that?
Well, there's a strong perception. I think every Republican candidate who's talking about this issue, first of all, it's good that they're talking about it.
Yeah.
But in a state that has been so red dominated for the last, I'm 36 and Terry Branstad's on my birth certificate, and
hey, we just to be clear, we did have a couple of
Chet Culver and
two terms of Vilsack. So
yep, so there were a few gaps, but I mean the perception, whether it's fair or not, is that Republicans have been in control while our water quality issue has come to be noticed. It may have been there a lot longer, right? Who knows? Maybe nitrates have been a problem in Iowa going back to the, early 1900s or something. But that perception is there. And so when a Republican candidate is talking about fixing the water quality issues, I mean, you can just see it in the comments on any post on social media. The real question a lot of Iowans have is, how are they not going to, because the perception is there, be controlled by these entities that Nicholas is talking about?
Okay.
Where we know there's a problem, we talk about the problem, but then we hope the problem goes away before we really got to do anything about it.
No. Okay. Well, that's a fair question. And I get back to what we started to answer, where we keep going off on these things about, back to the original question about how I win in that district, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would point you to my second race. Okay. I'm in one, surprised a lot of people. Now I'm running a second race. Redistricting has turned that from a purple district into a blue district. I'll just say it this way, bucked the system enough, said no enough, had constitutional issues enough with those in charge that I got $0. Now, I don't know if you know the significance of that in the metro area. I'll just name some seats, and this doesn't imply anything. I'm just going to state observation. The Grimes seat got over $500,000. That's my neighbor immediately. Yeah. Like literally, you can't even tell the difference between Johnson and Grimes, right? It's like one big area. The two Ankeny seats got over $500,000.
When you're saying they're getting money, this is from like the Republican Party of those
to run, the House Majority Fund to run their campaigns. Yep. If you're familiar with Des Moines, which not everyone is, but right there on 2nd Avenue, we split Sailorville in two. The person on the east side of that got just under $500K. I think it was 480 or something. And I got $0. Well, there's a reason for that. And quite honestly, we're good now, but there were comments made that I'd just rather have a Democrat than a guy that's going to just stand up and not do what we want him to do when we want him to do it. And so I've always been that guy. I've never, to me, that's not even a hard thing. Like right is always right and wrong is always wrong. And it's not even arm twisting. It's like, no, I don't believe that. So therefore I'm not going to go with it.
I think that goes a long way with people to know you're principled and you're not just
and
loyal to a color.
And the second part of that, which I've told that story a lot, but the second part of that story, I don't really tell that often. I would just say there are probably 20 people in Iowa politics that almost every political nerd knows. We know their names. This person was not Kim Reynolds, but let's just use her as an example. This is not Kim Reynolds, but everybody knows Kim Reynolds, right? And it's one of those people one of those 20 people that everyone knows, right? So the second half of that story is I get a call to, hey, let's do lunch, talk about your campaign. Great. Now I'm running at that time for my second. I'm getting $0.
Yeah.
Everyone else, I've been told that that I've said no too much, right? To things that I think are unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Anyway,
one of those. Come on, you got to get with the team.
Yeah. Team player. You're not a team player.
Right.
Thank you, boy. Sounds like you guys been around. Heard that phrase once or twice.
Yeah.
And I go there still a little naive because this is a person that we all know, and they ask the questions like a lawyer that they already know the answers to. So, Nicholas, how's the campaign going? You're like, Eddie, how's it going? Oh, well, it's, we're just hitting the doors. We're talking to people. How's the finances going? Now they know.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they're sucking right now.
They currently do not exist.
I've never raised money, and by the way, I'm the guy actually leading the charge for campaign finance reform, but that's a whole other story.
Big fan of that. Big fan of that.
Yes, it doesn't work well. By the way, let me just interject. Now, if you do have $1 million, you want to send them to Eddie Andrews. Go to eddie4iowa.com. But I did actually have a bill long before this race, and to limit our campaign contributions to $100 and out of state to $1. They laughed it off and actually took it off the actual calendar. So literally, first time I've ever seen them remove a subcommittee. It's not. We're not even going to kill it. We're going to remove the subcommittee. But back to then, they said, well, Eddie, here's the thing. Now, I've heard you're a no on a couple of these things. Yeah.
Do you mind saying what a couple of those things were that you were a no on that they wanted you to not be?
Well, one of them was tort reform. And unless it's done right, I think I have a Seventh Amendment issue with them. What? By the way, tort reform sounds really nice because it sounds like a dessert, right?
Yeah.
What that mean? And I
complete
gave it
immunity to lawsuit. Right?
I gave this a new name. It didn't take off yet, but I was giving it a name. I think the acronym was CEL. Corporate Error Liability Limitation.
Yeah. Was this Senate filing 394?
I don't know. That's a few years ago.
Yeah.
It didn't really take off. It didn't really gather. But the point is, this doesn't even that legislation would not take place unless a corporation had made an error severely, and it's clearly their fault. So at that point, we're going to say, okay, let's give them liability.
Why? Because that corporation was just funneling money, and
I think that one was for hospitals and so on and so forth. And, everybody likes hospitals. Everybody likes truckers.
Did that end up passing?
Of course it did.
Okay.
Are you kidding me?
Because Bear's trying to do that right now.
And 100% against that. I think that is the 180-degree opposite direction.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
We are, okay, we spent part of this conversation talking about health.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that, well, there's a good chance that they are participating in the cancer causing, but let's give them liability.
Right. Yeah.
Beforehand.
What could be more insulting
before
to
we
Iowans?
do the research? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, how could the government it's hard to imagine how they could say we are not for protecting your well-being and we are for protecting corporate interests. I mean, what a slap to the face of Iowans.
Amen.
One of my least favorite things in the whole world is dealing with red tape, paperwork, and bureaucracy. And at the very top of those things, insurance. I used to have, big company insurance because I thought me doing all the stuff online or with a robot phone call would be cheaper. Boy, was I wrong. My wife and I switched to McKay Insurance for everything personal and business that we interact with. And not only do we save over $1,000 a year, yes, $1,000 a year, we get to interact with real people. No longer having to deal with those robot phone calls, the terrible online interface. I mean, what is with those 1980 online interfaces? Well, we personally work with McKay Insurance. I can personally stamp my approval on working with them. I've worked with 5 different people from there. Every single one of them was incredible. And they give you big customer efficiency and pricing, if not better, with a very small company feel. They really take care of you. Highly recommend McKayInsAgency.com. That's McKayIns agency.com. You won't regret it.
Ditto. I mean, how many times? So I have these sayings on my desk to remind me of things. Every now and then you encounter a bill that you don't know anything about or you're just struggling with. It doesn't, like I mentioned, the raccoon bill.
Yeah.
One guy every year, he wants to he hates raccoons. He wants an incentivize, 20 like a bounty.
Oh, yeah,
20,
yeah. I think we heard somebody else tell us
about it. It comes up all the
this.
time. There's bills like that, right? And it's like, or, you want to talk about something that I don't know about, like maybe anorexic, what's the word?
Anorexia?
No, the farm thing for when they put the
Anhydrous ammonia.
no, this is the one where they see, I'm going to show where they take all the poop.
Oh yeah.
Anhydrous.
Well, you might be thinking
Okay, whatever.
The one where they do the municipal waste where they biosolids.
Yes. Okay, got it.
Yep.
So, first of all, for stuff like that, I have to have like a 3-hour podcast before I even understand it, right?
Yeah.
And so I have these little sayings on my desk. One is by Calvin Coolidge, right? It just says it's better to kill a bad bill than to advance a good one. And number 2,
that's a thought-provoking statement.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, we've gotten stuff that we can't get in that Culver put in, like because it's in there now. Like, no, it's still bad. Let's get it out. And then the another one is how I vote. Is it a moral issue? God, Constitution, and on and on and on down to, and I've always made a difference in that little thing. Iowa versus Iowans, and sometimes they're not aligned. Right? A lot of times, is it great for, if you think of Iowa as a business, some of those things are great for Iowa as a business, but they're horrible for Iowans.
Yeah.
The health of Iowans.
Thanks for making that distinction.
And so I always make that distinction every time I vote. And I just glance down at my little paper just as a reminder who I'm here to serve. It's not. It is the people. It's my campaign has always been people first. People first.
Well, okay, so I'll circle back to it. This was my second point that I was going to make earlier, is we have a historical precedence for what is going on with the health of Iowa and the farmers, and very similar, coal miners. More and more evidence came out. Oh, actually, you guys are dying by the age of 42. Well, because you're in the coal mines the whole time. And 3 generations after they figured that out, 3 generations continued to go back into the coal mines, knowing there was a health issue. And their answer was, well, we got to pay the bills. So let's forget about the big corporations that might be greedy, right? Let's talk about the individual farmers who go, well, I need to pay my bills. I've got a mortgage on the land. I've got inputs that I'm doing. I'm trying to get my kid braces. You know what I mean? And let's even say, let's exclude the farmers that are financially irresponsible or super greedy and just want a new truck. They're out there, but we know many fantastic farmers trying their best. And their thought on the health is like, well, look, I don't really want to look in the Roundup thing because I need to be able to pay our bills. So if we get down that rabbit trail, and we as a culture, we as Iowans come face to face with, we can either continue our economic form in the way that we're doing it, or we can have healthier bodies. The historical precedent says we pick the economic side. We don't pick the healthier bodies. And how do you lead, not even just legislation or telling people what they can and can't do, how do you lead a narrative in a way where we say, hey, we should probably move forward with health, and we'll figure out, we as a community will surround people who are stuck in the economic struggle there, and we'll help them. How do you lead through that?
Good point. And by the way, not just that, but my grandfather, we're from Akron, or my parents are from Akron, and the rubber capital, right? Same kind of thing. So the difference that I would put between those two industries and now is we do have alternatives, right? We have proven research that shows you can do this without harming. And sometimes it could be something as simple as, a few buffers, or it could be, I was talking to a farmer yesterday who just tried a few things over the last couple of years and just tested the water, test the well beforehand, test the well afterwards. It was normal nitrates in and very close to 0 going out. Boom. You don't have runoff running into the river, right? And so you can do these things. That's the big difference now. You do have alternative. And that's why I started with education. And by the way, the name that I was looking for was Dr. Huber. He's still.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Who had that
recently
comment
as well.
about sick soil health versus healthy soil, right? And so we can do that. And so if we educate, not mandate, but if we educate and make it positive, make it popular, make it cool again, make farming super cool again, right? I don't know. Let's see. Make farmers
cool again.
I don't know. MFC, that could have some other implications.
We've gotten so good, quote unquote, at growing things that there aren't that many farmers because the land stays the same amount, but each farmer can farm more land. So the percentage of population that are farmers is dramatically smaller than it was even 50 years ago. I mean, dramatically. Yeah. And, I don't think that is the end of the world, but I do think less people on the land means that there's less of a connection with the land.
True.
If let's say your cousin's a farmer, well, there's a little connection to some land there. But if your brother's a farmer and your cousin's a farmer, well, by golly, there's a lot more connection for you.
We're farmers.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we have connection with the land. We care about it more. We're more incentivized. And, recently someone talked on a really big podcast. They were talking about that in Iowa, you don't have to know. The government doesn't necessarily know who the landowner is. It can just be in an LLC. And so right on off the bat on Beacon, you're not actually seeing. And maybe you can get it through a lot more homework, but our state is being treated like an annuity fund for people on the East and West Coast.
Yes, we've been talking about that as well. It's you're right. I mean, they do look at farmers and landowners as like an ETF, like a stock.
Yeah, it's like a really safe bond, because what would you propose to do about that? Because you do seem to be less regulation is better. I tend to be in that camp as well, but right now, I'll give you an example. Knoxville, we're being held hostage by some landowner in another state that refuses to give up the biggest building, one of the biggest buildings in our town that sits there empty, and two of the four most
how
traveled.
How many years has it been empty?
Like 20 years. And two of the four most traveled roads go right by this building. We can do nothing about it. As a community, we're literally being held hostage by this guy. Giant parking lot, giant building, could have tons of things in it. And whenever people approach to buy it, 10 times what it's worth. You can't, unless you're starting a silicone factory in there, you can't make money off of that, right? So no one can economically buy it. It would either take a really generous person to come in and buy this giant building and do something with
Nick's
it.
been praying all kinds of imprecatory prayers.
Where's Elon when you need him?
Yeah, come on. I want people to be able to be connected to the land, but if they're doing that, what do you, because I am not in favor of democratic mob legislation. I kind of joke about it, but I do not want a world where all of us in Knoxville can rise up and say, we're going to tax this one building 500%, right? That is scary for me because as a property owner, who says they wouldn't do that against me? So I don't want to do that. But then what do you do about the landowners who are coming in, buying up all this land, and they're not connected to it? They're treating it poorly. The farmers who are farming it basically are, no offense to the farmers, they're intelligent, wonderful people. It feels like we're getting to the lords and serfs model. We're headed in that direction. What do you do about that? As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, tell us what you really think.
So,
the building example I would put in a different category, right? But we have put legislation together that said we need to start limiting foreign ownership. I don't know about out of state. I don't think we put anything about out of state ownership in there, but certainly foreign entities. Then we had to come back and modify it because obviously there's a lot of ways to hide and shell. The end result guy needs it. We need to stop those guys from being foreign owners. And as you know, it's tricky because what is foreign ownership? And so Representative Charlie Thompson, who's a lawyer, pretty sharp guy, by the way, helped with some better language to help stop that.
that's been it. Where's that in the pipeline?
That passed.
Really?
And by the way, we've already, and I hear people talking about this because people very often confuse what goes on in Iowa versus what goes on in DC. For instance, let's get porn out of school. Like, dude, where you been? We've been working on that for like 6 years here in Iowa, right? Yes, there's whack-a-mole elements, but we're eons ahead of what's going on in DC. And it's a similar thing. Why are we letting people, foreign owners? Well, they can't buy any now, but we have a lot of grandfathered things in there.
Sure,
So we're still working on that.
Because Montana they do a thing. If you're an out-of-state landowner, sure, but we're going to build our roads based on the taxes that you're paying because you're paying a higher tax bracket.
Yes, and I do agree with that too. You should be paying a higher tax.
And we don't do that here in Iowa that I understand.
No, not at this point.
I think it would make sense. I mean, look, if someone from Italy wants to own 200 acres in Iowa, great, but he's building a new school in Iowa every year, just obscene tax prices. And then if you're out of state, then or maybe have different brackets, where out of state on the east or west coast, much higher. But if you're in Illinois, it's higher, but not way higher.
Yeah, that's effectively the President Trump tariff model, right?
Oh,
if you want to do business here, you're gonna pay the price. So.
Well, I am definitely a fan of charging people the taxes to own land in Iowa. I think it's just we need to have relevant benefit as Iowans to have it. Do you see any world where that comes into play?
Yeah,
you think so?
In a word, yes.
Okay.
Especially if you elect Eddie Andrews, ladies and gentlemen, as your next governor, that will happen. Yeah.
Kind of going along the lines with this, legislation that is in the line of what Nicholas is talking about, in a way, is saying the current model in which agriculture is happening in our state isn't going anywhere, and we're just trying to limit who can participate in that model here. But I was just listening to a podcast on Friday that a friend sent me, and it was an opinion piece had been written that essentially said agriculture has gotten as big as it is, and yet to keep farmers in business, we've had to have all these different subsidies, whether it be for crop insurance, whether it be direct payment subsidies, which we're supposed to get another one of those that rolls out really any time, I think.
You can log in and claim it now.
Really? Yeah, okay. Yeah. And there was one that came out, I want to say, was it in July, something like that, this last year in 2025. And actually might have even been before that. I think it was before that, maybe May. And there was one back in 2020. Point being, a lot of money coming in from the federal government, from the federal taxpayer, that is, for lack of better terminology, keeping farming alive. And this guy wrote an article saying, look, if we ever want farming to continue, and I think I understand his point well. I was working while I was listening, so I may have missed a few key points in there. But he said, if we want to keep farming alive and come away from the subsidized model, heavily subsidized agriculture model, we need to just stop playing around. Anyone who is a small farmer, which he basically said 5,000 acres or less is a small farmer.
I'd love to be a small farmer.
The argument is you need to quit playing around with pretend farming, essentially. Bow to what farming has become. Everyone starts focusing their efforts into the 20,000 acre guys and go hyper efficiency, right? And he laid out all these arguments. He evidently has been on a lot of different farms for whatever his profession was. I don't remember. And
you helped co-author that, right?
No,
no.
Yeah, that'd be a big no. The idea is, can't beat them, join them. Our rural communities, which are shrinking across Iowa, and the industry in those communities, which I think education. This is where education really ties in. When you look at a small, middle of nowhere community that's just hanging on, a lot of the people there, maybe not the majority, but a lot of them, they're paid by the school. They're a bus driver, they're a cook, they're a teacher, they're a administrator, they're a janitor, and the only money coming in is government money to keep the lights on in these towns. And his point is we need to have this huge industrialized agriculture model where all the people from these towns can go and work for the big farmer, and they run a tractor.
Lords and serfs.
I was going to say that is a lords and serfs model there.
And
I disagree with that, by the way. Go on.
Yeah, and so that is his argument. This is what if we're gonna be serious about having farming that doesn't depend on the taxpayer to keep it going, we need to just be as efficient and as big as we can be and reward that system to its fullest and support it to its fullest. And in a way, we are seeing that. It's just slower than what he's talking about. You know, I was on a farm yesterday with a friend. A guy was born there and farmed his entire life. In fact, the guy's still living. He's 98 years old. Farmed there, he lived there up until 3 years ago. Now he's in like assisted living, you know, but still owns the farm. Lived his entire life, and it's about I think it's a 160 acre farm. There's nobody living off of 160 acres of doing, you know, conventional, you know, corn, beans, cattle. That's just not happening anymore. And so we've slowly have been going to that now where there are no real true what we know of historically small farms left, and we are the people who are farming full time, no off farm job. They are the giant operators, the 5,000 and on up acre operations. How do we? First of all, are we okay with that?
No.
And
that's easy.
And then how do we turn it back around to save our small farming communities and bring more farmers back to the land and support that as a state?
Okay. So, wow. There's a lot there, by the way. The short answer is I disagree with that model, and I think we can do a number of things to support our family farms, and 5,000. That's a lot of land. Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot, but I understand. Yeah, if I were a personal farmer, I'd much rather have 10 than 5.
Yeah,
but you want to make sure that people under that can survive and thrive, right? Mm-hmm. And I still am a believer in alternatives. I mean, industrial hemp is a big thing that there's a big proposal.
Yeah, I saw that hit the news just last week or something. Iowa is looking at removing some restrictions on growing hemp or something like that.
What did you hear?
I don't.
Because there's so much. There's a plan that I didn't think you probably heard, but there's in one county is selected as kind of a real huge test case.
Okay.
I don't think that hit the news yet. Breaking news, I think is the other way to say that.
Man.
But, and the idea is to really just test this out and just see if you can see what happens. Yeah. Using this as a major initiative.
You spend time in the Capitol. Is there because you know who's not going to love that? Companies that make billions and billions of dollars off of corn and beans every year. They're not going to like that. Is the political will in the Capitol to go against those entities?
Well, since it hasn't been officially announced until today.
Hard to say.
Look, by the way, that building, there's nothing like working in that building. And as much as we worked to get to the Golden Dome, good Lord, we need to get right back out and start talking to the people. The more you're in that building, the more you need to start talking to people. And my colleagues laugh. It's kind of a running joke. It's kind of humorous, because they know I'm always campaigning. Mm-hmm. But I call that talking to people. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason. Here's my philosophy, though. I'm not sure this is relevant to this, but here's kind of my philosophy. I think the reason the House is, I believe, closer in line to the people. It's because we have elections every 2 years. And for some of us, we never stop campaigning, and we're talking to everybody. We're holding sessions in our off years. We're doing this because what was important when I first ran was COVID. Limiting governor powers. What are we doing? Why are you doing this? The next one, the focus was on getting craziness out of our books for our do 5-year-olds need to know, every sexual variant, right? Just all. And so things change what's important to the people change all the time. And so you have to be in tune, which is why I think, no offense to my Senate colleagues, but I think they're more out of touch, in my humble opinion, than the House, because I've literally heard things like this. Oh, don't worry about that. We'll just come back next year and fix that. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a problem now.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Get the stuff done.
So, but bringing that back to farming, do you see any path forward? Is there any conversation happening? I appreciate
Yes.
the hemp conversation. What are they saying? What's going to happen to us? Are we going to be Brazil in 20 years where they have 150,000 acre farms and everybody in a town works for the farm? All their parents do. Farms have like their own school systems. Are we going to do that, or are we going to fight back?
That's almost the Chinese
no,
model.
literally. And but if you look at the graph, that's where we're headed. We have to make some sort of difference.
Okay. So yes, we do. And there's a number of things that we can do and just supporting them. We talked about a number of them already. Making sure that, let me just back up and talk about an adjacent issue, just rural communities in general. So I've got one of my initiatives is called RED, R-E-D. Doesn't mean Republican, although if you are, please vote for me. But at any rate, it stands for Rural Economic Development, right? And that's part of incentivizing people to stay here. And let me just also be clear, because I said this one time in Washington County, and somebody said, I don't know if we want that much development. And I'm like, development can mean several things. It could mean financing, could be money, or building, right? Yeah. And so I'm referring to monetary incentives, right? Even in incentivizing young people to stay there, and not just stay there, but to farm, right? Just a farm incentive. And providing a mentor or providing something that can help them get started. And so that would be part of it. That would be part of the initial structure of having young energy in this area. We have some of it, but it's not as much as we by far that.
Maybe that could be your first phase out of property taxes if you if you're a farmer under this size, or you're in this age, or socioeconomic dynamic. Property taxes waived as you start your operation for the first 5 years or something.
Okay, so you guys are now senior advisors to my campaign.
No, I'm grateful that people hang out in the Capitol. It is not where I want to
This is great. No, you can stay here and still advise. No, but I think you to your point, you have to encourage people. People respond to incentives.
That's true.
And they hate mandates.
Charlie Munger says, if you want to see the future of a company, look at its incentives. I mean, you literally, because it's in our DNA to follow the incentives.
Ooh, quoting Charlie Munger, man, we've got some good quotes this.
Yeah, we do. Thomas Sowell, Calvin Coolidge, and Charlie
Dr.
Munger.
Huber,
Dr.
Albrecht.
Well, I really like. The brain drain we've talked a lot about here. What are your thoughts, just in general, of keeping our young, I would say educated, I'd say at least undergrad. Right. How do you keep them here?
Oh boy. Can I just say one more thing as I'm
please.
answering that question though? We mentioned all those other names, but we also got rid of the Leopold Center. Remember that at Iowa State, whose job was to
I remember this
do
now. This was a few years
research
ago.
for the purpose of bettering Iowa production and Iowa health.
Leopold is in Aldo Leopold.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
Yes.
I had no idea this existed. When did we get rid of this?
Man.
It's around 5 years ago, I think, within the last 5.
It was in the way of progress.
I don't know the exact date, but it's like we get rid of things because, quote unquote, they save money, but they cost us in the long term, right? And so restoring something like that my goodness, we have Iowa State University leads in so many areas. Like, why would we get rid of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now on to the other question that I forgot the question.
No, you're good. There. Just in general, brain drain, keeping
Yes.
people with at least undergraduates. I mean, we are bottom 10 of states, and so what do we do?
So again, if you've heard me once, you've heard me twice, if not 10 times already, talk about incentivizing. That's how we're reducing our mental health, wait times, because we're getting more doctors here through incentives, right? We're effectively paying them. One person called.
Would you mind talking a little bit because I imagine the listeners ask you, okay, we love the incentive idea. Where's the funding coming for the incentives? But that's a great example, one that you've already found the money
Yes.
for. Where does that come from? Private donors mostly? Does it come from corporations? Does it come from reallocating tax money?
Comes from the straight general fund. But it's if you have to think about it like a long-term investment. You don't think of this as a one-time expense. This does come back to you, right?
Good point.
For every person who leaves the state, you lose $2 million.
Oh yeah, yep.
It costs over what? At $24,000 per student, which I know that shocks a lot of people. That's what it takes to educate a kid. $24,000 is on average.
That's crazy.
State puts in. We already talked about
Per
that.
year.
Per year.
Yep.
Over 8,000 from the state. Then property taxes, and then the federals put in $8,000-9,000, and then you end up with $24,000 per student. I know that number shocks a lot of people. I asked that question the other day at a forum, and the average, they thought, well, maybe $1,500, $1,600. And one person went really high and said, what, $4,000 a year? Right? Think about that times 20 kids in that class. That's a lot of money.
Crazy. Yeah.
And so multiply that by 12 years. That's a lot of money that we're spending on that child. The last thing, if you spent another $4,000 or incentive to keep that person here for 5 years, that's versus losing lifetime $2 million. That's an investment worth taking.
Yeah. Well, what do you think is the lowest hanging fruit to incentivize?
And let me also give you another example too. So I know we've talked a lot about property taxes, but let's not forget the success we've had on income tax, right? We started with one of the higher income tax brackets, rates, and then we moved it into one bracket, which was kind of odd for 1 year because there were some people who actually paid more taxes that year. We got a lot of flack for that, but we got them down to one tax bracket and then lowered it down to 3.8. And part of that, and this is part of my input to that, we got all of our income tax for retirement down to zero at the state level. So I know personally 3 military families who moved to my current district, and they told me this, each one of them. That's why they moved here. They were at the end of their military career, 20 years. And these guys are younger. Look, they're younger than me. I don't know if they might be your ages, but I think I'm a little older than you guys. I don't know.
Just a couple of years. Kent's,
you're over 29.
Yeah.
Okay. So these guys are like 48.
Yep.
They put, or 45. They put in their 20 years. And they're retiring. They're thinking of the normal states, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, a few in Arizona. And then they said, oh, wait a minute. Iowa now has income tax, retirement income tax, and our military income, even at 40 in my 40s, is zero. Are you kidding me? I've got don't we have family there, honey? Yes. And so they can come back to Iowa and stay there. So again, incentivizing people through tax code does work. And so incentivizing them another way can also bring people back. I envision like an Iowa reunion. Like I don't know where you guys are originally from, but in Des Moines we have this big party every year in generally the black community where we bring everybody who's gone. Like it's kind of a big thing. I don't know how well known that is out in the greater community, and they just come in and have a good day. But what if we were to incentivize people to stay long term? Boy, we're helping to solve our workforce problem. We're helping to solve, even our rural community issues. And like I mentioned, our RED plan incentivizing young people to come and move. And we've actually done a little bit of that. We've got a little bit of example. Even during COVID, we had, I don't know if you know this, but we had people who were working for California companies who thought, well, I can't go anywhere here. Let me go back to grandma's and I'll just code from home in Iowa. And we had plenty of examples. And I say that as a techie. Many of you guys know that, yes, I'm a 3-term state legislator. I've co-pastored a Hispanic church for 13 years. I'm in ministry a long time. But my real job that pays the bills, I'm a techie. All these billion-dollar corporations ask me to come in and help them.
Did you start something called like Metronics?
Mentoramics is another thing that I've done. Mentoramics is.
I love that. I read a bunch about that. I really liked that.
Well, okay. Well, let's talk about that. So Mentoramics is, I think I started that 8 years ago. I also started Des Moines Spanish Conversation Group. That's 20 years ago. A couple of other things around town. But this really takes knuckleheads, as I call them.
Yeah.
And they think they're learning technology or STEM or whatever, and kind of they are, but what I'm really doing is teaching them life skills and decision making. And it has taken them from, many of them go from D's and F's to B's and C's and higher in just 1 year.
Wow.
Based upon the things that we teach them. The first 6 weeks of every, oh my goodness, it is like the worst thing I've ever done. I question my sanity because, there's a reason why they're in the bottom of the bottom half.
Yeah.
The attitudes are there, the posture's there, the disrespect, everything is there.
And my understanding is these are students that are borderline about to go to an alternative school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Des Moines Public Schools, by the way, even though I represent Johnson, Urbandale, and Ankeny and Saydell, but Des Moines Public School has called me in a couple of times, and they're like, how do you do that? Like, what do you do? And they said, actually one time they said, well, we've tried this and it doesn't work for us. I'm like, because I don't think you get it. Like we're trying to build men and a few ladies that come there. We're trying to build character and build decisions while they are learning coding, and they've had great success. Like I said, about the first 6 weeks are like insane. I question why I even do this, right? Like, what am I doing again? And then about week 6 or so, we get our first piece of code in the App Store, and they're like, now they got something they can show their friends, even though it's crap, right? Like it does nothing. Like, and then they get it. Like, man, dude, that's nothing. That's nothing. Like, oh yeah, but it's in there, And then as we get up, and they start seeing how they can make better things. Now, at some point between 6 weeks and 8 weeks, they're like, I think I want to learn. I think it's. You see the wheels turning. Yeah. And then now they want to create, Halo or something like that. Right. Like, no, okay, let's slow down.
Yeah. That's so cool.
But and the money's theirs, so we help them, if it's a monetary thing. We had one kid who did he had 400,000 downloads on Android alone before I even knew it.
Wow.
We were working on the Apple version, iOS version. 400,000 downloads, and it was a stupid game. Like, I mean, half of them are stupid.
Yeah.
Like digging a hole to China or something like that. It was some stupid game.
That's so funny.
And now these kids, they see immediately there's some.
They can create value.
Yes, and there's an immediate benefit to learning and doing something. And now their posture's straightened up.
Wow.
They're we have these life lessons and all that gobbledygook that goes along with that. And really, it's an excuse to train these kids. Like most of these kids, I started this. They didn't want to be there. They're only there because their mom made them be there, and that's the only reason. Because I talked to their moms and typically they're single moms, not always, and I would talk to them and I said, hey, I'm starting this crazy program. I think your son would help him, and we've actually had a couple of moms, one mom and a couple of grandmas who just said, hey, do you mind if I just sit in the back? And while this is going on, we actually had one person change their career because they learned how to code.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's cool. That is like you were talking. You like to talk, but at some point you got to do it. Yeah,
I'm a doer, man. Even when I was way back in East High student government president, by the way. Yes, that picture. I was the skinniest guy in that room, by the way. And I would organize neighborhood cleanups. We'd make sure that, and this was even before that I was the president of that group. We would make sure that all the seniors had their lawns mowed, snow shoveled. Mm-hmm. We would actually make sure that there was like a sick committee. If anybody was sick, we'd visit them in the hospital. We live here. You see my button that I have all the time. I love Iowa. It's just buttons that says Eddie Andrews loves Iowa. And I do. I love our people. I love the state. My family was raised here. I met my wife here, by the way. We met during Sunday school. We were arguing over Joshua and the Battle of Jericho. And she would not shut up, and I would not shut up. And for whatever reason, the teacher let us argue for a little bit. And we became good friends. And, about 16 or 17, I realized, hey, she's not bad looking either. Hey, and I as soon as this high school thing's done, I'm locking you down, sister. And that's what we did.
Married
That's awesome.
young. Wow.
Oh yeah.
You got to be careful about those Bible classes. Bible colleges are dangerous for hitching people together.
Oh, I think I don't think the people that go there know that. And
that's
I don't
probably
think that's
true.
a be careful thing. I think it's be.
Yeah.
I started at Christ for the Nations in Dallas, and they jokingly called themselves Brides for the Nations because they just so many people got married at that school. They would show up in August and September, and then they'd get engaged over Christmas break, and then get married the next summer all the time. Yeah.
Well, I did know my wife for a long time, and she's an amazing lady, and so. She's, by the way, an independent, which is, so we have at least two of our campaigns that make that known as if that's going to turn me into AOC or something like that. The big reveal now that we're married forever.
An independent.
I'm now going to turn into AOC if you elect me.
That's funny. I have one last question for you, and it goes along with your button.
Una no más.
Well, yep. As Nicholas likes to ask, if you could snap your fingers and change one thing about the world, what would it be? But I'm going to limit you to Iowa. If you could snap your fingers and change one thing about Iowa, what would it be?
Okay. Immediately, my mind gives 5.
Yep.
Okay, can I cheat a little bit?
Yeah, you can cheat a little bit. Yeah, that's fine.
Education, and there's a reason why I start with that. Getting Iowa education back to number one is critical. My grandfather, born one generation from slavery. I can't tell you how many times I got that 18 versions of the same lecture. Get that education.
Yeah.
Because he knew it was magic.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't tell you about 401ks. Of course, they weren't even invented then, or networking or business or whatever. But he knew education, and the other was faith. He said with those two things, you can do anything. If you believe that, and then the second goes along with that. I mean, you have to understand that there is something bigger than you and me, and the purpose is to help. Love, man, I'm really cheating here on this one because you have to do. I think there has to be a sense of service. I've always been a servant leader. I mean, my actions, just the things that I go on just on the things that we've served. And I am going to take a little bit of liberty with that question. So the first of this year, January 3rd or 4th, I get this call from Autism Speaks, right? Mm-hmm. Not just mental health, but all the neurodivergent issues that go on. I've been a big proponent of that. And they said, Eddie, I got a call from Autism Speaks. And if you look that up, it's a national organization that fights for autism and better services and better ways to fulfill those needs. And they said, Eddie, your bill, I believe that was House File 330 for those keeping score at home, was one of the best bills in America over the last couple of years, in part because it was a supplement to another bill that we had championed. And can we come into Iowa, when we fly in, and give you a national award of all the 50 states? Like, think about that. And I, of course, said, "Are you kidding me? Like, this is yeah, please, right?" And I say that because that's one example of service, and just finding out another way to help people. Another call that I got last year. I'm sure this is a veteran-friendly crowd here, but I got a call from the VFW for all the work that I've done on veteran suicides, veterans in and outside of that Capitol, again, largely outside of the Capitol. I've been almost the only representative of either party, either chamber, who attends the Veterans Commission's meetings, different than the Veterans Affairs meetings. Really just trying to get a handle on what's important to veterans, like how can we provide better services. And they said, Eddie, we'd like to give you a lifetime, think about that, lifetime achievement award for all the work that you've done on veterans. And of course, me jokingly, I said, like, lifetime? What do you guys know something I don't know? Like, I got a long way to go, guys. Lifetime.
This is it.
I'm just getting started. But it tells a story without telling the story of that I am a doer. I didn't do any of this stuff. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know those were options. Right, of getting national awards and state awards for service. It's just there's a reason why a lot of my colleagues refer to me as one of the hardest working guys that's ever shown up at that state capitol, because I get stuff done. I love serving people.
Yeah, it's quite a reputation.
Well, we really, really, really appreciate you taking the time and hanging out with us. I had a great time chatting with you.
Well, I kind of enjoyed it too. Yeah. I mean, you guys are okay. You guys are okay.
What I would love to know is if whoever you think is doing the best job of interviewing the gubernatorial candidates, I'd love to listen in, because I just want to be educated. And similar to your...
You mean besides you guys?
Besides,
we'll take that. Yeah, we'll take that.
Yeah, we'll see. We've got 2 more to go. We'll see if we can get them on. I think we might be able to.
I can tell you this much, Eddie. I haven't decided who I'm voting for yet. I've talked. This is candidate number 5, right?
Yeah, maybe 6.
I got more for you if you want to go a little longer.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. It's going to come down to. It's going to come down to whoever can make me feel that I can believe they're going to do something about our water quality and our cancer rate in our state. And I have a very vested interest. I have 4 little children.
Yes.
And I hope this is a place they can stay. Sometimes I almost feel guilt as a father of little kids who have no choice on where they're at, that all I'm doing for them is putting a water filter on their drinking on their drinking water.
Okay.
And I'm talking about it a lot with the people that I think can pull the right levers. But the candidate who makes me feel convinced they're going to do something about it, they're going to stand up to whoever is in the way of it. And I think we got a pretty good idea who those entities are. Who's ever got the backbone to do that will have my vote.
Since you mentioned it, I appreciate those comments, by the way. Those are great. Not your only vote, but your first votes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Your first key issues. I can tell you that as a person that's still in the legislature right now, I authored, can't say authored, but there are three of us, Gerhardt, Representative Gerhardt, myself, and I think David Young signed on to this after the fact to address our pediatric cancer rate.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the study that we have that we initiated $1 million to study. But I hate to say it this way, but the part about pediatric cancer was taken out. A lot of silliness happens at that Capitol. Well, we put it back in. And this past year, or past week, I think it was a week from today, we invited or a week from tomorrow, we invited the parents and to bring their kids, and we introduced on the House floor the cancer, different kids who have been affected by cancer. I got to tell you, there were a lot of tears a lot of wet eyes in that building as we're introducing all these just regular kids.
Yep.
Regular kids. Mine was Marie Post, right? 10 years old, twin. And her brother, who was not there, Charlie, right? Was blessed, and I say blessed in an odd sense because he had no symptoms, but they found out that he did have cancer. So blessed in the sense that they discovered it, even though he had no symptoms. And it's obviously changed his life, her life, the family's life. And now this 10-year-old is advocating on pediatric cancer. Like she has no, she should not be.
Right. Shame on us that it's coming to
She
that.
should not be advocating for grown adults.
Right.
In front of grown adults. Right. But she is. And there's this other kid just running around, 3 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, just having the time of her life. Thankfully, her cancer is now in remission. You can't even tell it. But she was just the life of the party, literally running all over the chamber. And we let her. She's enjoying her life, let her.
Yeah.
And so that is a passion of mine. And again, President Trump used to say, promises made, promises kept. I can tell you, if you think about it, all campaigns are promises made. That's it.
That's right.
And so I can tell you that of all the people that are running, I passed more bills as a regular non-policy holding legislator than anybody else, than the other two combined. I get my stuff done. And I've got a record that's really second to none. And like I said, I'm a talker, but I'm more of a doer. So I hope you take that into consideration that as you decide, hopefully for Eddie Andrews. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you
so much for coming out. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We know we got listeners from all over the country. A lot of you in the Midwest, but
and Australia.
Yeah,
for some reason.
in Australia.
A bunch of people in Australia.
It's because we talked to that one guy at Pheasant Fest years ago. Who told us he'd only been bitten by those crazy Australian spiders like 20 times or something. Wasn't nothing. He said.
Yeah. That's also a job of mine, by the way.
Yeah.
What is
Australia? I am a cheetah. I am a cartoon cheetah.
What?
Yes, I am. I am a cartoon cheetah. I'll show you.
I'm very interested in this.
We don't have. They don't have a Tony the Tiger, but they have a Cardiotech cheetah. So
interesting.
We'll maybe have to talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Man, well, we'd love to have you back on, and
we plan on having the winner of the primaries back on, and if that ends up being you, we'd love to chat with you.
What do you mean
again.
if?
I believe
That's
in
the spirit.
you. I believe in you, Eddie.
I believe in you.
I'll say one that, reading about you is cool, but like, you are very charming in person. You're very great to be around.
Wow,
and I appreciate it. And I believe that you are like that behind the scenes, even the time that we spent.
I am. There was a stat, somebody produced this the other day, and they said, Eddie, of all, take away the leadership, like the speaker and the Senate president, people who have the titles. They said, you've had more visitors ask for you than any other representative.
Wow.
And it's not even a close second. So,
Man. Well, it's like, you just have any sort of amount of personality, and people that hang out with Kent and I think that's why they ask to hang out with us again, because we have like any sort of, sometimes you get into politics and it feels very lawyery, and it's like, oh, great, and it's terrible. But you're not like that at all.
Well, thank you so very much for that. And if you don't mind, if I could just give out my website.
Yeah, absolutely.
My website is Eddie4Iowa, and it's the number 4. And you can call me at any time. I put this on my card, the one I handed you guys. It's 515-800-IOWA. That's 515-800-4692 for those who can't spell it.
I struggle with it. I sometimes have to
we get some cheers and jeers with every one of these episodes we do. So there you go. If you got a cheer or a jeer, send it Eddie's way.
Yes. And I put on there, call me anytime, and people do call me at 3, 4 in the morning. I was up at 2, literally 2 today.
Wow.
Crazy.
Working and answering phone calls. And
Man. Well, thank you for doing that. And I wanted to shout out to your grandfather, who just kept pounding in your head that you needed to get an educator. I mean, that's why we do these. We're just trying to help Iowans be educated on the things that we know a little bit about. And
both Nicholas and I have parents that are career educators.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Well, yeah, thank you. Shout out to oh my goodness. Dave. I kept thinking Norman, not Norman. Dave. Shout out to Dave for connecting us. That was very kind of you. And everyone, we'll talk.
He's amazing.
He is. We'll keep you posted on if we get any other gubernatorial candidates. But don't forget, conservation happens one mind at a time.